Okay, my guest on Podcasting Them Softly this week is the one and only Cynthia Rothrock. She is a martial artist, a black belt ranking in no less than 7 different martial arts, among them Taekwondo, Karate, Wushu, Eagle Claw. She's a Hall of Famer with more than 60 credits in film and television. Some of her credits being Raging Thunder, China O'Brien 1 and 2, Martial Law 1 and 2, Fast Getaway, Tiger Claw, Angel, Fury, Lady Dragon, Rage and Honor, Undefeatable, Guardian Angel, An Eye for an Eye, Sworn to Justice. Her new film, which we're going to talk about, is The Martial Arts Kid. Cynthia, it's fantastic to have you on Podcasting Them Softly.
Yeah, well, it's great to be talking to you.
It's fabulous. So I guess there's you know, as I often say at the top of these shows, there's a lot of people who know who you are. There's probably also a lot of people that don't. So for the uninitiated, I guess could you give us a little bit of a brief history of yourself prior to your work in films?
Okay, well, I was a world champion in form and weapons. I started martial arts when I was 13, and I became number 1 in formed weapons and fighting in my region, which covered about 5 or 6 different states in the United States. And then I decided to start competing professionally, like going to all the other different regions. And in 1981, at a young age, I became number 1 in forms and weapons all over the United States. And my goal was to remain number 1 for 5 years undefeated. And that was competing about at least 30 championships per year. And after 5 years, I wanted to retire because I figured that would be a record that nobody really could beat, or if they could, it would be really, really hard. And I trained like a maniac. I went to Hong Kong. I went to China for 8 weeks to study. And we're talking about, being a teenager and, heading out to China, which really you had to have permission to get into. It wasn't easy to get into back in the 80s. And martial arts were my life. That's all I did was train. I had a school. And during my competition years, I was on the cover of a magazine, and a company called me to do a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial.
Wow.
Because it was based on number 1 in sports, and they said, well, we see you're number 1 in martial arts. So I did that, and that was my first little taste of acting.
Right.
And then I lived in Pennsylvania. I moved to California because I wanted to study Wushu under Roger Tong. And I hooked up with the West Coast demonstration team, and they were contacted by an editor of Inside Kung Fu magazine, and he said there was a Hong Kong company in town looking for a guy. They wanted to kind of get a new Bruce Lee going on. So Ernie Reyes, who was the team leader, he said, well, can we bring the girls? And he said, yeah, but, they're really not looking for a girl. They're looking for a guy. So we went down, and I auditioned. I did some fighting. I did some form. I did some weapons. I did self-defense. And Corey Yoon was the guy that was casting, and he said, well, I changed my mind. I want to go with a girl instead of a guy. So they signed me up, and in 1985, I went to Hong Kong and did my first film there with Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, which was
and I was still competing then, and that was my 5th year. So I was doing movies, and I was competing, and I was movies and going back and competing. And then I became number 1 for my 5th year in a row, and then I retired. And at that point, I already finished Yes, Madam, and that broke all box office records. So on to movie career for me. So that's kind of a little bit of prehistory to film.
Yeah, well, and then my first encounter with your work was a film called Raging Thunder, or No Retreat, No Surrender 2, with starring my very good friend Lauren Avedon. which you were in,
Yes.
which at the time I thought was your first. I hadn't seen your other movies that you'd done at that point, but I thought it was your first movie at the time. Um,
Yeah, that was
was,
actually my second one. It was
that
my
was you.
first English-speaking one.
Okay. So yeah, so that was really cool. What was it like working on that film? I spoke extensively with Lauren about his days in doing seasonal films. What was that experience like doing that movie?
Oh, well, it was interesting. We were in Thailand, like probably, I think for about 5 months shooting it in all different parts, like in primitive conditions. But we had a Chinese crew, we had a Thai crew, and we had an American crew.
Mm.
And there was a little dissension between crews, so we had to kind of work our way through all that. And, it was a hard shoot. I mean, I remember one time we were shooting on these railroad tracks, and the camera crew, they had to like climb down this mountain to get to it, and they said, hurry up, let's get this scene done, because if a train comes, there's nowhere for you to hide. We're just right here on the track.
Right.
So we all kept messing up our lines, because we were so afraid. What if a train comes? What do we do? You have to jump off the cliff or what? So it was just a crazy. Was my first time in Thailand. I think all of us at one point kind of got sick.
Yeah.
It was, but you know what? For all of us just kind of starting out, it was like a pretty good movie.
Yeah. Yeah, great. Did they take your passport as well?
Did they what?
Did they take your passport as well? Lauren told me that they took his passport away, and he was rather nervous about that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. No, I think they kept mine. I think they knew I wasn't going to.
He said he was very nervous. He said he was very nervous because they took his passport away initially, and he said I had a photocopied version of it. But he said it was almost like, oh, you're here to do the work, and we're not going to let you go until you've finished. But yeah, so you went on to.
Well, I think there were
there
were some problems on the set, and some of the actors were threatening to go, But in the end, it all worked out well. So
it did fantastically. So you're going from there to a massive, really impressive, just one after the other. Like I read through some of the credits, the China O'Brien movies, Martial Law, in which you starred with another good friend of mine, Richard Norton, that you did a couple of films with too. Also Don Wilson, you've done plenty of movies with Don. Yeah, you've run the gamut. I mean, what was it like just doing movie? It seems like it's just movie after movie after movie. Did you literally go from one movie to the next, or did you have a little bit of a break in between?
No, back in the 90s, I was doing movie after movie after movie, and it was getting to the point where it was so exhausting. It was like, I just need a break. I need a break, and then I had to turn down a few films, because after you go back to back on 3 movies, right?
Yeah.
And these aren't like, we're doing all our stunts, we're doing all our fighting, we're getting hurt, and it's taking like tremendous tolls on your body. It was like, I know, I remember, it's like funny, because you'd be just like, I just need a break.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was tough, but you know what? To be a martial art actor, you have to have somewhat of a tough personality.
Sure. And then, of course, a lot of these, coming out in the era of VHS, you then had to go and, did you have to go and do the promotion of these as well?
Yeah, we did. We did a lot of promotion then. I remember, going all over the world, and that's when, video, like, DVD, well, they weren't actually DVDs, they were like VHSs or something like that. And the video stores were big, that was like if you were a big seller in a video market, that was like being a blockbuster movie, in the movie theaters. So they would send us to all these distribution places, basically, to talk to the people that were selling the movie to get them excited. So yeah, we did a lot of promotion back then.
Yeah, because then, as a lot of like Richard Norton and Don Wilson and Lauren used to say, you'd go out and you'd sit at a table somewhere and you'd be promoting the the new film or several films, depending on how many it made, at that point.
Right.
So it must have been, seemed like a never-ending process. So you must have looked forward to the any sort of time off when it came along.
Oh, definitely. Yes, definitely. I remember just coming back from Hong Kong and being thrilled to be in a regular supermarket.
Yeah.
I remember because when I was living in Hong Kong, it was just like little glorified, 7-Elevens that they had. And, I just go, oh my gosh, look at that line of cereal boxes. Like, you really appreciate, things in life that, you didn't have there.
You sound like my wife when she first, because she's American, and when she came over here, and of course we don't have Walmart and all that over here. And she sort of bemoaned the lack of choices when it came to cereal in the cereal aisle. She said, in Walmart we have.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
She said in
That's
Walmart.
hysterical, because that was the thing I remember the most, is that because when you were over there back in the 80s, the late 80s, it was like probably $6 a box for cereal, and you only had like 2 choices.
Yeah. So she said, in Walmart we have a massive aisles and aisles of cereal and aisles of this, and I said, I'm sorry, dearest.
That's funny.
My fault. Anyway, but so anyway, among your credits too, as well as movies, you did some television, like with Hercules and the Dukes of Hazzard reunion. What was doing TV like as opposed to doing movies? Was it a bit more relaxed?
I wouldn't say it was a bit more relaxed, but it was more. The thing about it was when we were doing movies, we were doing different locations every day. I mean, you might be traveling 2 hours just to get to a different location. The filming was pretty much the same. None of it's really relaxed because everybody's like trying to get a job done at a certain time.
Oh, sure.
But I think the big difference for me is that we would do it on a studio lot, so we had pretty much the same location every day. So it was kind of nice just to, go to that same spot every day.
Right. A film that you done not that long ago, and I interviewed Chris Olinray recently, which I really liked, was the kind of all-female Expendables, Mercenaries. It was called,
yes.
Which I thought was a great film, and wonderful to see you as one of the principal members. What was Mercenaries like?
Well, that was an interesting story. I was on my way to, I was getting an award from the International Hall of Fame by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's probably the biggest award that you could get because you have to be voted in by these people. It's not something that's just given easily. And when I get, it's in Ohio, and when I get there, I get this call saying, we got this part for you in Mercenaries, and you got to be on set tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. And I was like, what? And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do the movie, but I wanted to get the award from Arnold,
Yeah.
So I didn't know what to do, so I called the promoter and I said, they want me to turn around and go back home, and I want to do this movie. And he's going, but Arnold's going to be upset. So they called the company and they said, this is going to be so big. We have over 150 press people here. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. We'll have Arnold call you. So they said, all right, well, you know what? Well, we'll give her a different part, but she has to be on set the next day. So as soon as I got the award, I had to go home. And so I didn't have time to read the script, so I'm reading it, and it's all technical. It's got all this technical stuff. Well, they said, okay, so the part I played, they were like, okay, well, you're going to play my assistant's part. And I said, okay. So I'm trying to get the award, study, and I get home, and it's going East Coast to West Coast time, and I get home. It's literally like 4 a.m. in the morning that I was up. I had to be on set at 6 a.m.
Wow.
Then as soon as I get home, they say, oh no, you're not going to play that part. You're going to play the other part. So I have 2 hours to go, and it was like I had all my main dialogue. I only had 3 days of shooting. I had all my main dialogue that day.
Wow.
And I was like, are you kidding me? I didn't have time to look at it. And then the other guy that was my Gerald, who was my assistant, he didn't have time either because they switched the roles at the last second.
Wow.
So that was such a strange experience for me. It's basically like get on set, memorize this page and a half of dialogue, and shoot it. You know,
Wow.
and the reason that they did it at the last minute is I wasn't originally cast for that.
Right.
I think they had Rebecca De Mornay cast for it, and she backed out, and someone said, "Oh, get Cynthia Rothrock." So that's why I really don't have any fighting in it,
Right.
because when that movie came out, everybody said, "How come Cynthia wasn't fighting?" or "Where's your fighting?" or da 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 da. It's like, well, you know, because that part wasn't originally for me.
Okay.
But so it's an interesting story. One I'm not going to forget long. You know,
Yeah.
it's trying to, you know, learn all that dialogue that day on set and go shoot it.
Wow,
Like, oh
yeah.
my gosh, and it was all technical terms too. It wasn't like easy dialogue. It's like, you know, things you had to remember as the head of, you know, the FBI.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I was about to say it was, and I think I said it to Chris too. I said, yeah, it was a bit of a disappointment. You got Cynthia Rothrock and you didn't utilize her for what she does best, and that's her fighting. You know, of course, he didn't elaborate on what you've just told me. So now we know the truth.
He said what? He said I was old? Oh my God! Oh my God! I can't believe he said that. I tell you, I feel like I'm better doing action now than I was then. I can't believe he said that. That is so disgusting that he said that.
I said, how come you didn't get Cynthia fighting? But of course now we know the truth that you were.
Yes, that's the truth, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
So now you were.
I tell you, oh my God, that is insane. That's insane. Yeah, because they had me fighting Vivica Fox, you know, and she doesn't really do acting. Like, they use a lot of doubles for her, and when we were doing that one fight scene, I was trying so hard, like, not to let her fall or this and that, and she was a little bit heavier than me, and she fell on my knee, and I thought she almost broke my knee because, you know, I was trying to hold her up.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Oh, I can't believe he said that. Oh my God, that's insane.
He didn't really allude to too much, but now you know the truth, folks. That Cynthia was rushed in and rushed out.
Yes. Oh my God! And not only that, is we did this one scene and the lighting was horrible, and I said that lighting's really bad, and he goes, yeah, and like and when it was on everybody else because it was all nice lighting, he goes, yeah, well that's because we got to do this. I'm telling you that. You know what? It's so funny that you said that because that was it was a weird experience for me. I was like, oh my gosh. I know. Well, you know what? They got a lot of flack from it because they definitely used me as that I was a fighting and stuff, you know. And I guess they didn't want to say that. Well, she wasn't originally in it,
right,
you know. And it's like, right? Does she look like she can't fight? I don't think so.
Well, there you have it, folks. Anyway, we better talk about it.
Yes, unbelievable. That's insane. That's so insane. That's the funniest thing I've heard. Oh my God.
Well, Cynthia, we better talk about the martial arts kid, which is a wonderful. I mean, it's not the newest thing you've done. You've done some other things since. But I spoke to Don Wilson the other day. The martial arts kid, which is kind of like a little bit of a different kind of Karate Kid type movie that you've done recently. Sort of a different take on the Karate Kid, if you will.
Yes, yeah, yeah. It's you know, it's got some similarities, especially with the title, but the movie itself is quite different because, you know, in the Karate Kid, you know, the premise is about, you know, a boy that's getting picked on and bullied. And then he learns martial arts to gain confidence and be able to defend himself. But the difference with this one is it's very real. Like, he didn't learn martial arts like almost overnight and become a world champion and be the best person, you know, in the world. You know, he only became a green belt, and he learned just enough self-defense that someone could basically learn in 6 months' time and be able to defend themselves. But you know, the main premise basically is, you know, not to, you know, to stand up to bullying, and, you know, it's not a, you know, if you are bullied, you know, to report it. So it's like a great message, you know, to kids, and all the martial arts in it is real. All the masters fighting are real martial arts, and that's what the producer wanted. He didn't want anything like wash on, wash off, you know.
Yeah.
Like techniques that really wouldn't work on the street, but, you know, all that you see is realistic martial arts. And
Don had a very funny analogy based on that, the wax on, wax off. He said to me that I've waxed plenty of cars in my time and it never turned me into a lethal weapon. And he said I've painted fences and all that too, but it never I never really And I said, well, you know, I mean, it's a movie, you got to suspend disbelief in some areas, but I mean, obviously to do what you do, like what you and Don and Richard and all the other martial arts do, takes a lot more than sanding floors and painting fences to become masters at them, and it takes years of dedication, hours and hours and hours of training. It's not something to be taken lightly. But one thing he did say that was very interesting too about the film is it really reinforces the idea of martial arts. Yes, it should be used for defense only, but also it's a form of respect, like respect for learning respect for other people, learning respect for the skills that you can acquire. I mean, he had a really different take on it, and I thought that was a very different type of message to come across from a martial arts film, because usually it's all about, I mean, it happens in this too, the hero triumphing and all this sort of stuff like that, but he said, about learning respect for other people, and, because it is a discipline, which a lot of people just see the glorified sort of action side of it, but it is very much a discipline. That's true, isn't it? It's about discipline.
Yeah.
It's about self-discipline.
Yeah, it's definitely self-discipline, because, when you learn anything, like martial arts is not easy to learn, it takes a lot of people learn it and they get really super sore, or they pull muscles and then they want to quit, but, it's like you have to get your body in condition, you have to discipline that, and then there's a lot of repetition, there's a lot of memorization, you got to remember things, and then, because basically the idea is you train so much that, if you're attacked out on the street, you don't think about it. You just automatically react, and that's where that repetition of training comes over and over and over again,
Well, you're very much unstoppable, Cynthia. You've got a lot of things on the board. I heard there's a sequel too. Is there a sequel to the martial arts kid that you're doing, or is that true?
We're getting ready. It's called the Martial Art Kid 2 Payback.
Right.
And basically, we hope to start shooting it at the beginning of the year, and you'll see a lot more action in this one.
Right.
It's going to be a little bit more nitty-gritty than the first one. Basically, the last one ended with the character of Chuck Zito, the father.
Yes.
And so basically, he's going to be him and Don and I against that. So we're going to have, it's going to be a little bit, we're still going to have a good message for the kids in it, but it's going to be, a little bit more than the first one. A little bit more darker.
Cynthia, can I ask you a question I've long wanted to ask you? Is it true that you were the inspiration for Sonya Blade from the Mortal Kombat video game?
Yeah. Well, if you look at my Wikipedia page, they said Cynthia Rothrock is Sonya Blade. What happened back then is the producer, took my likeness, actually took the kick I invented, the Rothrock Sting. I invented that kick and used it in the video game. And he didn't want to say, this is Cynthia Rothrock, because my agent wanted a lot of money and they didn't want to pay anybody. They wanted to just kind of get people that, weren't really known, so they didn't have to pay much. So that's kind of what happened there. But due to the fact that it looked like me, I remember during that time, everybody would be like, Sonya Blade, sign this. I go, okay, I'll sign it, but I'm not really Sonya Blade. And it was kind of a little sneaky thing, where probably like a lot of people said, well, did you sue them? And I'm like, no, I don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, that's the story behind that, is they basically, didn't want to pay like a lot of money to use your likeness, so they just stole it.
There you go. I'm surprised they didn't do something nice like tap you for one of the films or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yep. But whatever. There's strange people out there.
No, I mean it was one of those things that always floated around. Like, I mean you don't sometimes you don't want to ask because it might not be true or anything like that, and you might sound a bit silly, but I've always been curious. So.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to hear it was stolen. It would have been nice if you were. Yeah, or if they did something nice to follow up, like put you in one of the, because they made a couple of Mortal Kombat films. It would have been interesting to,
Right. Yeah.
put you in there
Yep.
and you could actually do the move for real. Do it in real life.
True.
Yeah, but
a good thing Chris isn't directing because he's too old. Oh my God! I can't forget that. I'm telling you, that is like mind blowing. That you said that. I'm sorry, but that's like that's crazy.
I mean, he didn't like all.
I know. You know what? 2 years ago I climbed up to Everest Base Camp and I did the Inca Trail and I'm doing Patagonia. I'm like, yeah, let's see how far you can get on that.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't sort of like, I mean, he was, I don't know if he was tired or whatever, but he, like, I was sort of going through his films with him, and he said, "Oh yeah, that was a great experience. It was one of my favorite movies," and like, I was trying to get him to maybe, talk about, because it really was at that time. I mean, the Expendables series was running hot, and of course, Sylvester Stallone had all the the action heroes of his peers there, and this was kind of going to be like the female all female version, which I thought was tremendously exciting, and I thought to have someone like yourself in there, and because of all the wonderful action films that you're known for, and then you were kind of just sort of there and there and gone. So
they thought if they were going to do a sequel, then I probably would have became part of the team and fight. Right. But I think the movie didn't do so well, so it kind of didn't get a sequel.
Yeah, even if you weren't meant to be in it, I'm glad that you were, because who better? who better to be one of the all-time greats?
Yeah, exactly. They made a lot of sales because I was in
it. Yeah. Well, Cynthia, it's been absolutely a privilege to have you on Podcasting Softly. You're, I'm a tremendous fan, so it's been a fan's thrill as much as it's been an interviewer's treat to have a chat to you. I hope nothing but the best. You look like just like Don. You're pretty much unstoppable. You've got a whole bunch of films coming out, and certainly more on the way.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna. We just agreed to do. Don and I are doing a film with our Camacho, which will be shooting in November, December. So we have another one coming up.
Wow. So, God bless you. I hope you keep doing what you're doing, Cynthia, because you do it very well. And
well, thank you. I plan to.
and I look forward to all the future exploits, as do all our listeners of Cynthia Rothrock. Thank you for being on the show.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we look forward to The Martial Arts Kid 2. Part 2, what did you say? It has a subtitle, doesn't it? Did you say?
Yeah, it's going to call Martial Arts Kid 2 Payback.
Payback. All right, Martial Arts Kid 2 Payback. Starring Don Wilson, Don the Dragon Wilson as well, and Cynthia Rothrock. She's a Hall of Famer. She's a legend. And we look forward, Cynthia, to that film and everything else you're doing. Please take it easy, and we'll see you in the movies.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
All right, thank you.